What to do with your thrift savings plan when you retire? This question comes up all the time. Wanted to go ahead and address it here today. I just had a conversation last week. A couple came into the office. They're about 5 to 7 years away from retirement. And one of the big things on their mind was, what should we do with the TSP money when we go ahead and retire? In that conversation, we talked about 3 options, and I think they're probably the 3 primary options that you're going to want to consider when the time comes to think about your TSP. And I want to talk about those here today, the pros and cons of each, and hopefully move you closer to what might be the best decision for you, your situation, because it's so unique, right? So those 3 options are, number 1, do nothing, leave your TSP exactly where it is. Number 2, move that TSP to an IRA at another institution. And number 3, convert the TSP money into an annuity income stream. So we're going to talk about each one of those and kind of, give you some perspective on what might be a good fit. All right, guys. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin. I run a wealth management firm in Northern Virginia. We're focused on helping federal families make decisions around retirement planning, their investment plans, anything financially related. I'm part of a federal family myself. And the goal with this channel is just to provide as much education and information as we can across the federal community. So if you could like and subscribe to the channel, would really appreciate that. So back to the question, let's talk about option number 1, doing nothing, leaving your money at the TSP. I'm completely fine with this decision, right? I think it can be a good option for a lot of folks. Now, there's a level of familiarity which counts. I think that's a good thing. You've been contributing to the TSP all throughout your federal career. You know it well. Hopefully it's performed well for you. You've gotten results. You build a nest egg. So familiarity, simplicity, those are good things that are going to be there with the TSP for you. Now, the other thing, and this comes directly from the TSP's website, staying with the TSP, you can keep your account there, and many participants do because of the low-cost funds, right? People love the low-cost funds. Why not? It's good for investors when you have low expenses and fees, okay? And the other thing that they add here is you can always control how your money's invested in the TSP, even if you aren't making contributions. So those are both advantages, and they're probably the biggest advantages, the simplicity and the low-cost funds. Now, of course, we know there are also some limitations that come with the TSP. We want to talk about those as well, just so we're playing both sides of the coin here. Now, with the thrift savings plan, I think one of the big limiting factors is the investment options. We know you got the life cycle funds, 10 life cycle funds, 5 core funds, and a mutual fund window that's pretty limited. So that's what you're going to have to choose from going forward. You're going to stick with that menu of options, which is fairly limited, right? The other limiting thing is the withdrawal options, right? So it's come a long way. The TSP has gotten a lot better than what it was back in the day, but it's still pretty limited when it comes to withdrawal options. And one of the big things is you can't choose where your money comes from, which fund you're withdrawing money from, right? So that can be, you can work around that, but it's a pretty big hassle. So it's limited from the withdrawal standpoint. And then, of course, if we're thinking about this, no more contributions, no more loan provisions. Of course, that seems pretty straightforward. That would be the case if you're not contributing to it, okay? One thing that we will mention is the rule of 55. So this goes back to some of the advantages. You might be able to access your TSP funds earlier than other types of retirement accounts, IRAs, under the rule of 55 if you do go out earlier, right? And if you're a special category employee, you can access funds even earlier if you meet the requirements, okay? So that's just one other thing that I wanted to add in there. So to kind of sum this up, simplicity, low-cost funds, that's what's going for the TSP. On the other side of things, just some limitations, okay? So let's talk about option number 2, which is rolling your TSP into an IRA at another institution. There are just a lot of options when it comes to rolling your money into an IRA account, right? You could do managed funds, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, annuities, bank accounts, CDs. So there's all these options out there, and there's a lot of nuance there. And one thing I'll guarantee you is at some point in the future, you're going to be approached by a salesperson that's going to have the right solution for you. They're going to tell you they have the right solution for you. Just be really careful before getting yourself into anything. Do your due diligence, make sure everything seems on the up and up and it's going to be a good fit for you, okay? We're going to talk about doing it yourself at a big firm, and then the second option, which is just to work with an advisor at another firm, right? So those are the 2 things we're going to talk about. Now, if you're competent, you're comfortable with investments, comfortable managing your money and your financial planning, then doing it yourself at a big firm could be a great option, right? Because you're going to be able to pretty much match those low-cost funds that are at the TSP at a big firm, right? There's all kinds of options out there. And you're going to have access to the entire universe, depending where you go, pretty much the entire universe of investment options where you can run your money. And with that, you're going to have a much more flexible withdrawal strategy available to you, right? So you can pick and choose where your money comes from, when it's coming out, etc. So just a lot more flexibility from that standpoint. Now, of course, not everybody's comfortable doing it on their own, and the option exists out there to look for a professional that can help you along the lines what to do with your TSP, as well as maybe provide financial planning, retirement planning alongside of that, right? Because you've gotten to this point, there's complexity within the plan. You've accumulated a certain amount of assets. In a sense, you don't want to mess it up, right? That can be the mindset there, as well as just valuing the partnership, the collaboration that comes with working with a professional. And I will add, the distribution phase can be tricky. Okay, so the pros and cons with either option. The pros are going to be more than likely a broader range of investment options to choose from, right? So you're going to be able to really craft a strategy that fits your situation, especially if you're going into you may need income in the future, more flexibility there. More flexibility with withdrawal options. Like I mentioned, you can pick and choose where your money comes from. The schedule can be completely tweaked to whatever your needs are, right? And then, of course, maybe you go for retirement or financial planning alongside of that. So that can be a pro as well. Now, the cons, of course, fees, right? So now if you're thinking about doing it yourself at a big firm, the fees might be comparable to what the TSP has, because you can find those low-cost options. There's probably not an advisor fee in there. You just have to do your research, make sure everything's transparent, straightforward, know what you're paying for. If you're working with an advisor, there's always going to be another layer of fees, right? Because you're compensating the professional for their time, expertise, wisdom, etc. So just make sure you know what you're getting into. And then another con, like I mentioned, there's a lot of salespeople out there. So just avoid those product sales, do your due diligence. That's really what we can say there. And finally, the third option that we're going to talk about is just converting your TSP to an annuity. Now you can do this well, let me back up for a second here. So this option entails surrendering your principal balance, so taking your TSP money, giving it to an insurance company for the promise of a guaranteed income stream for the rest of your life. So it's going to act, like a pension, right? You're giving them your TSP money. They're going to say, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars for the rest of your life. You can set up on a single life. You can set up on a joint life with your spouse or with another person that has an insurable interest. Okay, so that's kind of the options there. You can set this up at the TSP directly through, they have a program there. I think it's still through MetLife, or you can shop it on the open market. Now, I will say this, be very careful with its decision point. It's permanent, it's irrevocable. You cannot go back on this once you surrender your principal to the insurance company, okay? So the reason people go into this, maybe they're afraid of outliving their money, right? They want to create another guaranteed income stream, and the insurance company will promise that. So it's relatively low risk as long as the insurer is solvent and continues to be so going forward. The cons of this, right? So it's permanent. We just mentioned that you're giving up the principal balance. So there's not really an option for a legacy, not an option to share money with your heirs. You can no longer take big distributions, right? It's just that income stream that's coming in, whatever the agreed amount is. And then of course, there's no inflation protection on this thing either, right? So it does not have cost of living adjustments. So be very, very careful before making this decision point. But I want to discuss it because it's out there and it's really confusing actually within the FERS system. The TSP annuity is right alongside the FERS annuity. So it gets confusing. So we always want to address that. So I hope, those are the three options that we talked about with this couple and shed some light on their situation. I hope it's helpful for you to kind of think through these three options and start to visualize where you might want to go when the time comes, okay? So of course, if you have questions on your federal retirement, any financial planning questions, always happy to be a resource. Really appreciate hearing from folks when you do reach out. So please feel free to use me as a resource at any point in time. And I hope you found this helpful. And if you have a chance, please like and subscribe. Appreciate it. Until next time.